Welcome to Tim's Final Confessions. I'm Tim Durling, and it is a gorgeous summer day where we are at, and Sarah and I are taking a road trip to lovely St. Andrews, New Brunswick, because Matt was there a few weeks ago, and there's an antique shop there with a generous selection of vinyl. I believe they also have CDs, maybe cassettes, so, you know, any chance to check something like that out, I'm all for. So we'll document that progress as I go. And so, jumping into the future here a little bit. Just to back up a little bit, when I did mention that Matt had been there, he actually picked up a record for me at Macklem House. That's the name of the antique shop. You'll soon find out. And it was something really surprising because I've said this many, many times before. You don't see original 90s vinyl out in the wild that much. And he found me In Excess X. This is from 1990. This is actually a Canadian Columbia House version. So this is a very, very unexpected find. And in good shape. This has a cool gatefold cover. And inner sleeves intact. And here's the record itself, the red, green Atlantic logo on a 1990 record. So that was a really, really cool thing for me to add to my collection. So thanks, Matt, for that. Also, Will found something for me at a place I've long heard about, but I've never gotten to yet. I've got to change that. Matt's Media Outlet in Riverview. Riverview is basically Moncton, right next to Moncton. Across a bridge. It's, you know, it's the next place over from Moncton, and they've got a great selection. Like, Will sent us a bunch of us pictures of group messages that we have going, and I couldn't believe some of the stuff he picked up, but he did find something for me. Deep Purple and Rock on 8-track, and in really good shape. This is a Canadian edition on Warner Brothers, so really, really pleased with that. Was not expecting that. And one other thing that I picked up recently that I just bought new that I think is really, really cool and worth mentioning. It's a reissue that only came out just within the last couple of months. This is Fleetwood Mac Live. This album originally came out in 1980, was a double record set. I actually only previously had this on 8-track. It's 2 8-track set. And this is a reissue. Just came out this year, and it's the only thing that I have in my collection right now that says this. Y'all see that? Warner Records. They don't call it Warner Brothers Records anymore. It's Warner Records. And to me, as a guy that grew up when I did, not to mention watching the Warner Brothers cartoons, Warner Records just does not roll off the tongue. It sounds wrong to me. Anyway, pictures from inside the original album. And what's really cool about this is that they add a third disc to it. So it's got songs that weren't on the original Fleetwood Mac Live album. Stuff like What Makes You Think You're the One, Gold Dust Woman, and what's really cool about it, I love that when in that period when they would dip into the old Peter Green, the early blues rock stuff, they always did Oh Well, and as a matter of fact, that's on disc 1, but they do the Green Manalishi with the 2-pronged crown. Judas Priest fans, take note. That's a Fleetwood Mac song. Check out the original. Pretty darn heavy for the late 60s. And Lindsay sings this one as well, as he does Oh Well, and it almost makes me want to hear more of the early Peter Green material with Lindsay singing it. But anyway, I digress. A good reissue, well done. That's just some things that I picked up recently. Now back to our regularly scheduled episode. All right, we are arriving at Macklem House. This is an enormous antique store here in St. Andrews. You can't even get a real feel for how big this place is. And I am pretty excited to check this out. I don't know if you could see that or not, but if you see the New Brunswick flag and you work your way down from there, there's an old Chargex sign. Remember when Visa was not Visa, but it was Chargex? Yeah, that's something for the old folks out there. So here I am after going into Macklem's Antique Store here in St. Andrews, and they've got a really good selection of vinyl. There's some CDs too. There's some out front, and then there's a lot more inside. What I noticed, there's a couple things that I noticed, is that the records are really reasonably priced in an era where like people just, I think, don't know really what to put for prices on vinyl records. Stuff here was very reasonably priced, so $10, $15, $20. You know, if it was something a little bit more rare, might be 35, but not a lot. So highly recommended. And although I only found 3 records, I'll show those in a minute, I was really impressed with what they did have there for records. They just had anybody that's ever, you know, shopped for records, you look in enough places and just albums that you see every time, and you see multiple copies of them. They had different records here. I don't know how else to explain it. They had albums that you just don't see, even though they weren't ones I was particularly interested in. So I'll show you what I did get. Lynyrd Skynyrd's 1976 live album, One More From the Road. And what's cool about this, I didn't even notice until I got outside, is that this is actually from Germany. So that's kind of different. I wasn't expecting that. Now, one that I've never seen on vinyl before, I've seen it on vinyl, I've never seen it to buy, is the debut album from Cheap Trick from 1977. This is just a nice Canadian pressing. And by the way, I looked inside all of these. They insisted when I was at the cash register, take a look at the records themselves, make sure you're pleased with them. That's good service. So I highly recommend that. So we have the first Cheap Trick record and the second Cheap Trick record in color. And this is also a Canadian pressing. So if you're down this way, I highly recommend checking out Malcolm's Antique Store. They've got everything here. They've got old pop bottles. Some actually have pop in them, like they've never been opened. There's old license plates here. There's movie posters. It's a huge antique store, and they've got a little bit of everything. They had a really cool antique radio that they were playing inside there, but more than anything, a really decent vinyl collection. Like if somebody was starting a vinyl collection, they'd get a good start on it in here. And for somebody like me that's getting more specific about what records I'm looking for, I still managed to find something. So definitely be checking this out again at some point. And just made for a nice road trip. Thanks everybody for watching Tim's Vinyl Confessions.